Welcome out, everybody, to the No Spank Zone. I'm Angela, your host, and I want to go into a little bit more detail today about being a narcissistic abuse survivor and failures of the current system on how to treat narcissistic abuse and childhood trauma, and what I believe are the actual tools that you need to overcome it. So, hopefully you've been watching my channel long enough that you've seen some of my testimony of what it was like to have a overt narcissist like my father and a covert narcissist like my mother. And as you go on, you'll hear more about the narcissists that both my siblings have become. And then later we'll get into my story and my shortcomings of what happened in my childhood because of it. But before we go into all of that, I thought it was really important that I start giving people out there that are listening to my channel an opportunity to actually go into their own treatment. I have gone into treatment several times myself. I've seen various therapists throughout my childhood, and never did I ever really feel like I ever got my shit sorted, for lack of a better term. It never really cleared things up. There were labels that we could give, identifying what a narcissist is, and you can see what their behaviors are, but it never really stopped the wound. It never really got connected deep into the area that I've been wounded. And I find that really, really frustrating. And I think that today's therapy really fails a lot of us that have gone through childhood trauma. There's so many things that aren't dealt with because the wounds are held in the subconscious mind. They're not in the conscious mind. And when you go to therapy, the only treatments they give you are conscious mind treatments. So you see, we got two areas of the brain that are competing and they're not working together. And it leaves you just not sorted. So if you're like me and you want to know why your life isn't what you wanted it to be, and you just feel like, who's in control of this ship? Because I don't feel like I'm in control of this ship. And why are all of these nasty, tragic, horrible things keep happening to me? Did I go through enough of it in my childhood? Why do I see it in the mates that I have dated? Why do I see it in the jobs that I've lived, in the bosses that I've had, or the coworkers that I've had, or the friends that I thought I had? Why is this narcissistic theme just popping up again and again and again and again? And the wounds that I've gone through seem to just constantly have their scabs ripped off, and I get reinfected by this guy or that woman or this person, and you're just so frustrated. It's like, why does this keep happening? Well, that's the number one reason I want to talk to you today, because I believe therapy today does not deal with the source. And that source is that childhood trauma that usually happens to you before the age of 8. And I think the only way that you are ever going to fix or ever going to heal those childhood dramas is to go to the subconscious directly. And you can't do that by natural therapy. So attached to this video is my step 1 process. And we'll go into a little bit more about what that is a little bit later in this video. But I want to go into a little bit more detail as to why I think therapy doesn't work, other than it not dealing with your emotional trauma, because that's stuck in your subconscious. The other issue I wanted to bring forth, and I want everybody to really think about, is when you have a trigger. Let's just say your boyfriend triggers a response. He yells at you in a particular manner that your father used to, and you cringe and you have a physical response, and you're just suddenly not in the present. You're reliving a situation from your childhood trauma from your narcissistic father. And you want to know, why am I attracting men that are doing this? Or why is this pattern? Why does this keep happening? And no matter how many times you go into therapy, you can't seem to stop this issue. And it's because of laws of attraction. One of the things that's finally been explained to me, and I don't necessarily think our life is fair and just about it, but if you've lived a childhood traumatic experience and you've not dealt with the emotions of it, chances are you are going to reenact that childhood trauma over and over and over in your adult life until you find a way to come to the source. Again, the source is in the subconscious. But the other thing I wanted to say, why therapy doesn't work, is they give you conscious thinking tools when you're having an emotional reaction that is happening in the subconscious. And I want people to consider that an emotion happens first, then the thought happens second. So how can you think first before you have the feeling? That makes absolutely no sense. And that's why therapy doesn't work. You're having an emotional trigger, and an emotion is received in the brain way before thought even occurs. Thought happens after. And that's one of the reasons why it's so very tricky to try to fix your triggers, is because you're having an emotional response and you have the thought of the behaviors that happen afterwards. And if you're like me and you've been trained by your emotional trauma, it happens, like in a millisecond. Before you ever get a chance to put a thought together, you're having an emotional reaction. Once again, this is why therapy doesn't work. You can't put a thought before the emotion. The emotion is happening before the thought. You can't fix a subconscious wound with a conscious treatment. It makes no sense. And you waste a lot of money, time, energy, and effort to go into therapy and never, ever really get to the source. So the other thing that I want to say that makes it really, really hard to treat the narcissistic abuse or childhood trauma is that once you've experienced it, and I know this firsthand, there is a part of you that seeks vengeance. There's a part of you that always feels wronged, that carries a disbalance in the subconscious of the wound in and of itself. And it leaves you feeling like a victim. And you feel that you need something outside of yourself to balance those wrongs. You need the narcissist to pay. You need the narcissist to own their behavior. You need the narcissist to say, I'm sorry. You need the narcissist to change his behavior in order for you to heal. And that creates a horrible problem because, number one, narcissists will never say they're sorry. Number two, narcissists take no responsibility for their behavior. Number three, you are stuck in a horrible pattern if you're giving your power away to a narcissist to fix you. And that does happen over and over again when you've experienced a childhood wound. So the only way I feel, and in fact, I know, the only way you're ever going to get rid of all of that childhood trauma is to find forgiveness. And I know people are going to go, why should I forgive them? They've wronged me by this. They've done the unforgivable. And trust me, I've experienced the unforgivable. But I do know that the only way to get it out of your head and to start changing that childhood trauma is to change your story. You've got to change your story. You've got to right the wrongs in your own mind and reprogram that brain. And you can do this, and you don't have to wait for the narcissist to fix it. You fix you. You don't need to pay a therapist to fix it. You fix you. That's what this whole channel is about. I'm trying to give you skills and ideas and methodology that you can use yourself to completely take control of your life and change all of those traumatic experiences. So, I know it sounds extremely difficult to forgive, but I totally believe it's possible. During all of my research of going through how to deal with narcissism and studying the treatments that are out there, there was one story somebody from YouTube mentioned, and it just really spoke to me. It spoke to me very, very loudly. And this is something I want you to consider when you're trying to forgive your narcissistic abuser. I want you to consider that your narcissistic abuser was in fact a child that suffered a child abuse or a narcissistic wound themselves. And I know this to be true. And you will hear this in my story as we continue and I give you more of my testimony. But why I want you to consider that, it makes a lot of sense, and I will explain further. Okay. I don't know if you can see this. Hopefully you can see this. We've got over here on the right-hand side a bell curve. And I just love this explanation as to why narcissists are narcissistic and why some people's turn out more empathic, which I am. But what happens? We'll just give a supposed episode. Okay. We have a father that is abusing a child and is screaming at a child saying, you're no good. Blah, 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 blah. You're good for nothing. You're never going to amount to anything. And he slaps the child. Well, the child immediately, being an egocentric, which all humans are when we're kids and under the age of 8, we believe the world is centered around ourselves. So any and all behaviors that happen, we take on and internalize. We have very little ideas of how to put the blame on the source. We don't have that ability yet. Our brain has not developed to that point yet. We're still growing and learning about our world and our universe. So before the age of 8, we've had a childhood traumatic experience. We have an unmet need, and we don't know how to get our needs met. Well, we're going to simplistically try to figure out how can we deal with the situation that just occurred. Well, if you own the shame of it, you might find yourself just absolutely devastated. And I think that's what happens with narcissists. They take on that shame of that parent. They take on the entire blame, and it becomes so incredibly painful that they disconnect themselves emotionally, that they basically murder their caring and compassionate empathic part. They shut it off because they can't survive dealing with that shame. And they, at that point, start acting out, kick the cat, hurt their animal, their pet, or throw a stone into a wall, break a window, do whatever to get the anger out. But they learn to externalize all of that hurt. And it might be yelling at their brother or their other sibling, might be fighting their sibling, might be pulling their hair, might be, like I said, hurting the family pet. But that's a mechanism that a child will create an attempt to solve the childhood trauma. Now, another child can experience the exact same abuse and feel that shame that they got from the narcissist. But as they internalize the shame, they decide, well, I've got to be a better person. I've got to do better. I want my parent to love me. I've got to be the perfect child, right? I've got to take care of them. And that's kind of the approach that I, as an empath, did. I internalized the shame they couldn't handle, took it upon myself, carried that shame, and tried to correct the shame by becoming the most perfect child you ever could be, by getting straight A's and becoming a valedictorian, which I did do, by trying to be a really good kid, by cleaning the house, by taking care of my siblings, by taking care of my mother, by becoming her... there's a name for it, but basically her maid, or a handmaiden, just doing everything I possibly could by putting the needs of everyone else in front of me and not owning any of my own, not accepting any of my own needs, putting me last, shoving my identity basically into my big toe, not allowing myself to have any identity. I think there's a whole lot of empaths out there that understand exactly what I'm talking about. But I want you to look at this bell curve. And now, those of you that don't know what the bell curve is, please look it up. Do a Google search. A lot of our grading system is on this, Most of us fall in the middle here. the people are going to fail or, get your B's and C's. This is the majority of people. But a narcissist is out here as an outlier. And an empath is over here. But what I want you to look at, it is the exact same childhood traumatic experience that results in these two different consequences. So one child takes an extreme view where I'm going to become super helpful, get rid of my own identity, take care of everyone around me to make sure that everything's comfortable and good and kind, and so we won't get hit again, right? An empath. Going to read the room, going to read the emotions of everybody, going to tend to the needs of everyone other than themselves. A narcissist took on that shame and couldn't take it anymore and shut down. A narcissist shuts down and starts blaming and just blows up kind of explosively. They take any and all shame-related issues and externalize. That's their method of control, whether it be damaging property, hurting their siblings. It's just a reaction to a childhood traumatic event. Now, as you grow older, you repeat these patterns and they become your character. They become your personality. But what I want to say, and I want people to really think about it, you are more like your narcissistic parent than you want to ever fathom. But there are good things in your narcissistic parent. There are things in your relationships, whether it was a narcissistic spouse, boyfriend, boss, coworker. There are good things in those people as well. And I want you to really think about why they are the way they are. And are they really evil, incarnate? They're not. They may do some really horrible things, but if you look at the source, that they're just on the opposite extreme of maybe where you are, in reaction to the exact same stimulus. You had the exact same situation. You just chose to handle it differently. And I want you to think that narcissists become narcissists in a childhood trauma situation where they don't have any better idea on how to handle an unmet need, right? So I think if you put that in perspective, if you think about it, they're just trying to cope with an unmet need and a horrible situation. And they solved the situation very childishly, but they're children. And you did too. Okay. So it's just a different methodology of trying to fulfill an unmet need. If you see that and you actually embrace that, it makes understanding what they do a whole lot easier when you go to try to forgive that person. Now, when I say you need to forgive a narcissist, I am not saying that you stay in an abusive relationship where your life is being threatened and you forgive them and you stay. I'm never going to justify any of that. What I am trying to give you is the power to unlock the laws of attraction here. So you stop attracting people like that in your life. And with narcissists, the whole tragedy of it, right, is that they can't grow. Their growth is stymied because any and all the things that are happening in their life, they're victims of. It's everybody else's fault. And as long as they have an external locus of control, they have no ability to make a better choice, to take accountability, to grow from their mistakes. So they will continue to be victimizers, for lack of a better term. They will continue to hurt and abuse. And I don't know, it's not your job to fix the narcissist. It's not your job to fix them. It is your job to fix yourself. And that is the whole story. We've got to go into ourself, fix that vibration, fix that imbalance, heal ourselves, right? So that these narcissists can no longer trigger you. Once you feel that sense of empowerment that you've allowed them forgiveness, you're going to really take back your own power, take back your own control, and your entire life is going to change. Your vibration's going to change. You're going to attract a much better life, a much better job, a much better boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Just a completely different life. But you can't do it as long as you hold on to the wounded warrior. You can't do it as long as you go to traditional therapy that doesn't allow you to deal with the source. And you can't do it as long as you hold anger, resentment, and the victim mentality in your head. You have to forgive that narcissist. And you do it for yourself. You don't do it for them. It's not about them. It's about you and about changing your life. So attached to this particular video, I started step 1 of the treatment, and it is a self-hypnosis part. And I want you to take a listen to it. I would love you to create your own. And one of the rules that I have in this particular therapy that I'm providing for you, I want you to understand that it's not my words that matter, it's your own. I'm giving you my roadmap, but it's up to you to make your own. I truly believe if you made your own self-hypnosis video, you will be 10,000 times more effective. You don't need to listen to my voice and to what my messages are. You listen to your own. But I gave you basically an outline, a map that you can use to create your own. So you have some clue as to where we're going. So in that video is step 1 of the treatment process. We'll have probably two more, maybe 3 more videos on where I'd like that self-hypnosis tape to actually end up. And I hope it makes sense to you. I really wish to empower people out there, as well as myself, to find effective treatment to deal with childhood trauma once and for all, to cure those emotional imbalances, those victimized mentalities, to change that story. Because I will tell you right now, because I've been processing and doing this particular video, I have found myself more at peace with my father than I ever in my entire life. And I wished I would have done this, at 16. Wonder where my life could be had I been able to do the self-hypnosis types of videos. If I could have done this kind of treatment, I could have fixed the trajectory. I can't say that word right. Trajectory, whatever I was trying to say. My whole life would have gone in another direction. So, and I hope it's effective for you. Please like, share, and subscribe this video. I really, really do hope that I'm reaching out to those out there that would benefit. Take care. God bless you guys. I'll see you next time.